Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to go over how to create a minimap inside Unreal Engine like the one being shown on the video. The minimap will accurately display where our player is and will also show the player's rotation on the minimap. To get started, we first want to create a minimap, and to do that we can go to the Place Actors tab and look for Scene, Capture 2D. And we just want to drag this into Unreal Engine, somewhere into our map. And what we're going to do is, under the rotation of this, in the Y-axis, we just want to make this -90. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Scene Capture 2D to create a map of the current level that we're in. So in order to set that up, what we're going to do is just right click and create a new folder and just call this mini map. And then we want to head inside here and just right click again and select materials and textures, and we want to select canvas render target, and we just want to call this our mini map target. And we just, with our Scene Capture 2D selected, we just want to drag this mini map target and drag this into here. And as we can see, if I just move this up a bit, it will create an image of whatever our camera sees. In order to make this capture more of our game, what we want to first do is change the projection type to orthographic. This will just make it so that everything appears flat. And then to make it zoom out, we just want to increase the ortho width. So the higher this number is, the more zoomed out it will be. So I'm going to make this 4000. And we can see it's quite zoomed out. And if I make this 100, it'll be quite zoomed in. So we just want to make this a value like 4000, so it's quite. And then finally, for our Scene Capture 2D, in the location, we want it to be 0 in the X and 0 in the Y. It's fine if these values aren't 0, but in this tutorial, I'm first going to go over the process of creating the minimap when these values are 0, and then I'll go over the process of creating the minimap when these values are moved a bit. Then once we've done this, we can just right click on this image, go to Asset Actions, and we just want to save our minimap to somewhere on our computer. Then you want to open Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, you can use GIMP or Photopea. You just want to import the image that we just exported. So we're going to find it, go to Open, and I'm just going to open up my image. The image will be a .hdr file, and we just want to open it up into photo application software. And here would be where you would edit the image if you wanted to. So you could just design the minimap. You could like paint over it if you wanted to do that. But for now, I'm just gonna leave my minimap, although here's where you'd like paint and design the minimap if you wanted to do that. So once you've done your editing, what you wanna do is just go File and go Save As. And then we wanna save this as a TIFF and go Save. And we can select 16, 24, 32, either's fine, and just save this back to our desktop. Then once you've done this, you just wanna import this image back into Unreal Engine. Okay, so I just need to make sure that I've named it something different because it's conflicting. Actually, we can delete this as we don't need it anymore. And we just want to import the image of the minimap. And whilst we're here, we also want to import this player icon. So this is going to be the icon which represents our player when we display our minimap. You can use your own icon, but I'll also leave a link in the description where you can download and use this one. So we just want to drag this into our folder and right click on this and go Sprite Actions and apply Paper 2D texture settings just to make it so that the image imports correctly. And with that, we're ready to start setting up our minimap. So the first thing we're going to do is create our player icon for our minimap. So the thing which will display where our player is in our minimap. So to do that, just right click, look for Use Interface and select Widget Blueprint. And then just call this player icon underscore widget blueprint. And then we just want to head inside here. And then what we're going to do is just double click and open this up. And then we just want to select this canvas panel and delete it. And instead, in the palette, we just want to look for Overlay. And just drag this into the player icon widget blueprint. And then we want to look for an image and just drag this into the overlay. And we just want to select this image and we want to align this into the center. So click horizontally align center and vertically align center. This will just put the image in the middle of the screen. And then for the image, we want to go to brush and we just want to change it so that it is our player icon. So we'll just look for the player icon image and select it. And it's a bit big, so we can just change the size of this in the image size. So I'm going to just change this to be 100 by 100. Actually, I'm going to change it to be 50 by 50. And this will be the size of the icon on our minimap. And then what we're going to do is head over to the graph and make it so that when our player basically rotates, we also want this icon to rotate with our player. So that way on the minimap, it shows the player's rotation. So in order to achieve this effect, what we're going to do is just drag in our image, look for Get Image, and then drag up here and look for Set, Render, Transform, Angle. So set render transform angle, this one. We want to hook this up to event tick. And in order to make it face the correct rotation, we want to right click and look for get player character. And then from here, we want to drag here and look for get mesh. Select this one. And then from here, we want to drag here and look for get world rotation. And then we want to right click here and look for split structure spin and just hook up the Z. And then go compile. So now we basically set up the player icon, which we're going to put on top of our minimap. So with this, we're ready to start our minimap. And to do that, we just right click again and go user interface, select widget blueprint, and let's call this minimap underscore widget blueprint, and head inside here. The first thing we want to do inside here is go to our palette and look for an overlay, and just drag this inside the canvas panel. And then we also want to look for an image, and we just want to drag this image inside of the overlay. Then we want to select our image, and we're just going to select it to be the minimap that we just imported. Then in order to change the size of this image, we need to go to the overlay, and under the size Y and size X, here's where we will determine its size. So I'm going to make this 512 in the X and 512 in the Y. And we also just want to select our image and make sure it has those same dimensions. So in the X, I'll make this 512, and in the Y, I'll make this 512. So this will be the size of my minimap. It's quite big, although we can change this later easily. And then you can just place the minimap where you want it to appear on the player screen. So I'll make mine appear here in the bottom left, and I'll just anchor it to the bottom left. Then with our minimap, we want it to show our player icon on top of the minimap. So we'll head over to the graph, and on event construct, we want to drag here and look for create widget. And the widget we're going to create is going to be the player icon that we just made. We then want to right click on this and promote this to a variable because we're going to reference this later. We can just call this player icon. And then what we're going to do is head back to our designer and select our overlay and just check this is variable button. And we're basically going to add this player icon to our overlay. So to do that, we can just drag in our overlay and look for get overlay, and then drag up here and look for add child to overlay. Hook this up to here. The child we're going to add is going to be the player icon, so we just want to hook this up to here. And then from our overlay, what we're going to do is just drag up here and look for set horizontal alignment and set this to be center. So we're going to make it so that this player icon goes to the center of our overlay. So we want to do this for the horizontal and the vertical axis. So then we want to drag up here and look for, whoops, I'll do it again. We want to drag up here and look for set vertical alignment. And then we want to set this to be center as well. So we'll position our player character icon exactly in the middle of this overlay. Next, we're going to make it so that this player icon will basically accurately display where our player character is on the minimap. To do this, we're going to head back to the event graph, and then off of event tick, we're going to drag and look for set render translation. So this one at the bottom. And then for the target of this, we just want to drag in our player icon. And we're basically going to be setting the position of our player icon in the X and Y on this widget blueprint. So in order to accurately get this, we want to right click and look for get player character. From here, we can drag off and look for get actor location. And then from here, we can right click and look for split structure pin. And we'll be able to get the X and Y coordinates of our player character. Then we want to divide these by a certain amount. So if I just close this and I go back to my scene capture 2D, you basically want to keep a note of the ortho width that you set for your scene capture 2D. So here I made it 4000. And what we're going to do is just divide the X and the Y value by that amount. So I'll divide this by 4000. And then I'll also divide this by 4000. Then we need to multiply these values. The values we need to multiply these are going to be determined by what we set the resolution of this image. So in this image, I set it so that it's 512 by 512. So off of the X, we just want to drag here and look for, oops, so I'll do it again. Off of the X, we want to drag here and look for multiply float by float. And for the X value, you want to make this a negative number, so make it minus. and I'll make it minus 512. And then for the y value, it can be positive, so you just want to drag there and off multiply and make this 512. So important, the x1 needs to be a negative. Then we can just drag off here and look for make vector 2D. And then we're going to hook the x1 into the y and the y1 into the x and go compile. So now we're going to have our minimap. We just need to display it onto the screen. So I'm going to go to my third person character and just make it so it displays this minimap HUD. So I'll go to the event graph and right click and go event, begin play. We can create widget. That widget is going to be the minimap, and then we'll add this to the viewport, compile, and now I go play. We can see it displays my minimap in the bottom left and displays where I am. Let's say I move all the way up here. My minimap is basically going to accurately display where my player character is in the world, and will also accurately display their rotation. So with that, we basically set up the minimap. So this next bit's for extra learning. So if you remember, when we started for the scene capture 2D, I said we should make sure that in the X and Y, the location should be 0, 0. That just makes it easier to make the minimap. However, if you can't do that and you need to move your minimap a bit to the forward and the X and the Y, that's fine. So what we want to do then is basically create the scene capture for it. So we'll do that. Right click, materials and textures, and create a canvas render target for it. And we'll just drag this onto here. And as you can see in the X and Y for the scene capture, I have a value of 570 and a value of 280. So I'm just going to quickly create an image for this. So I'll go asset actions, export this, and then put it in Photoshop and make this an image. So I've just imported and created an image of that new render target. So I call this minimap 2, and I've just imported it into Unreal Engine. So if there are values in the X and Y, for our minimap, we just want to go into it. And I'm just going to change it to be my new minimap, so minimap 2, and let's also just make it so it has the same resolution. So I'll make it 512 by 512, and then we want to head over to the event graph, and then because we had a value in the X and Y axis, we need to account this in our calculation of where the player character is. So if the value is positive in the X, like here, so it's plus 570, in our minimap, what we're going to do is just drag off the X and then minus it by that amount. So we want minus 570, and then we want to hook this into here. If, say, this amount was negative, then we would want to add and do the opposite. And then we can also see in the y-axis it's positive 280. So we want to here subtract 280. So I'll look for minus float. And again, if your number in the y-axis was negative, you want to add this number. Then we want to hook this into here and go compile. And now if I close this and go play, we can see that my minimap will basically accurately show where the player is. It's just you have to do that additional calculation if you want to move the render, if you want to move where your scene capture component is. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you could like the video, it would be greatly appreciated, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.